Welcome to Massive Passive Cash Flow, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello there. Welcome to the Massive Passive Cash Flow podcast. This is Gary Wilson, your host. Glad to have you back. We got a great guest today, Dwan Bent-Twyford, who I'll introduce in just a moment here. But before I do, if you could do us a favor, if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. You're probably on Stitcher, iTunes, iHeartRadio. It's on 30 different channels. And by the way, if you haven't been to the website, realestatewithgarywilson.com, please do so, because you can get in there and go to the members area and not have to. If you're a member, you already know what to do. You go on the left-hand side and access to all of the training programs, the website resources, marketing, everything you need. If you're not a member, go to the right-hand side and where it says not a member and click in there, and they'll let you in for like 30 days. And you can grab everything you can get your hands on, like Christmas time. So go ahead and do that. Oh, by the way, one of the things you want to grab is, well, not physically grab, but what we call an investor agent. And there are now, the Global Investor Agent team, there are now 28 states. I know that personally, because guess who coaches them? I do. And they know how to identify properties, analyze properties, negotiate properties off and on market. So this is kind of a big deal. Doesn't cost you a dime. They earn their commissions separately. So in case, keep that in mind and help yourself succeed. So let's go ahead and get started here. So Dwan, first of all, thank you very much for taking your time to do this. I appreciate you. I know you're busy, and this is a great treat for us to have you on board.
Well, thank you, Gary. I've been so excited all day. Just like, yeah, I can't wait.
Awesome. Hey, if you wouldn't mind, I know just briefly you're out in beautiful Colorado, and I know you love dogs, and I do too. Would you mind giving everybody a little background on where you are, how you got there, and then we'll get into some content for it,
Well, sure. So I actually started off around when I was 30 years old. So I got married, I had a baby, an 8-month-old child. My husband and I split up pretty unexpectedly. And so now I had an 8-month-old baby. And so I was just left in one of those positions where it was the 80s when I was in my 20s. So I was very much into clubbing, partying, drugs, like just the whole like, ooh, it's the 80s, And then now, it's like 1990, I got a baby and I've got all this stuff going on. So I just sort of, I had a minute there and I thought, I need to either work for myself or get a job because I have to support this child. And I was smart enough to know that if I got a job, I would probably keep it till she was 18. And, when you're 30, you think people that are 50 are super old. So I was like, I'll be so old. And I thought, you know what? I want to work for myself. I'm tired of working for other people. I'm tired of people telling me what to do. I'm going to just figure something out. I'm going to figure out how to work for myself. So literally with no experience at all, Gary, I met these people and they said they were real estate investors. And I said, what is that? And I said, well, we buy houses and we fix them up and we sell them. So my mind heard, we buy houses, we decorate, and we sell those. And I thought, I can decorate. I have excellent taste. I would love to be a decorator. I'm going to become a house decorator. So I really thought that's what I was getting myself into. Rehabbing, as it turns out, is nothing like decorating. And I moved into this house. I moved in with my baby. I rehabbed this house. I sold my first house. I made $22,000. And that was it. I was hooked. I've never done anything since. It's been over 30 years. I've done over 2,000 deals now.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. I've worked really hard. And, as you go along, you get into wholesaling and short sales and buying commercial and buying rentals. So, it expands into other things. But that first deal, when I made $22,000 working out of the house, living in it with my daughter with me every day and no daycare, I was like, I don't know anything better than this.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was hooked forever.
Yeah, I love the story. That's actually when I got started was the 80s also. And it was kind of a crazy time. We're coming out of the funk of, Vietnam and the gas crisis and all this crazy interest rates, like 20%. Here we were, kids in our 20s getting started, and I'm just kind of happy. I'm like a puppy dog, just going like, "Hey, okay, this is great," But got my first deal. The rest just say history. Let's moving forward then. So you got the first one under your belt, and that I'm sure that was like the best thing that could have ever happened to you, not just because of money, because of what it did for your mind and your heart. I mean, you're like, now you're engaged. You're like, this is, man, I can do this, you know?
Yes.
So kind of lead us forward. What other type of things did you get into? Did you ever do rentals or any of the like corporate housing?
All of it. So way back when I did my first deal, there weren't any RIA groups yet. So this is like old school. You have to drive to the courthouse. You have to handwrite the things. You have to use the old map books. Like there's no technology for nothing back in. This is what we didn't even have pagers yet. This is pre-pagers. Some people are like, I don't even know what a pager is. Well, this is before that. So I rehabbed for a while. I would move into the house. I didn't have the money to like rent here and, you know, be here. So I moved around till my daughter started kindergarten.
Okay.
And then once she started kindergarten, I thought, okay, well, I don't want to keep moving. And at that time, I was living in a really beautiful house in Boca Raton, Florida. I had about 15, 20 deals under my belt in those first few years. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And I discovered wholesaling, where I can just get it under contract and sell it to the other rehabbers that I know. Mm-hmm. And that's when money started like literally pouring in for me, because I was taking the same hours and the same work, and I was wholesaling like a crazy woman. A real estate group did open up about that time in South Florida. So went to my first RIA meeting, and there were like 80 men and 2 women. So then I was like, then for a minute I thought, don't women do this? I don't know. Am I supposed to be doing this? So a little minute of insecurity there, because I was like 3 years in, and I didn't know that it was the man's job. Yep. Right? Everybody does this. So now I'm in South Florida, and I meet all these men, and I'm like one of 2 or 3 women, and I'm working by myself without a husband and all the stuff like that. So, you know, I had to kind of climb up a few of those battles to get everyone to take me serious. But when they saw how many deals I was doing, people were like, well, show me what you're doing. And honestly, I wasn't even doing it 4 or 5 years, and I started having little workshops at my house and teaching people, because I thought, if I can do this, and I was fired from Denny's.
Wow.
Denny's on 3rd shift. I was like, if I can do this, it's not a living soul that cannot be successful.
Yeah.
So we did wholesaling. I still do a little bit of rehabbing. I started buying rentals kind of right out of the gate. I knew that rentals were, would be a good thing. So I've been buying rentals. In the last 3 years, my husband and I went back to a town he's from, Clinton, Iowa. And it's, we go back for reunions. His family's there. And it's this little downtown, and like, it just needs some love. So we had a meeting. We found out they're doing this big re-beautification, and we decided to buy a building, and then we bought a building, and we bought another building, and right now we have 20.
Nice.
20 commercial in this little town. It's like 3 blocks by 3 blocks, and I own 20 of the buildings.
Yeah. And you said that was Iowa?
Yeah, it's called Clinton, Iowa. And the downtown is really flipping around, because we're down there, we're opening it, we're getting these buildings, we're renting them out to amazing people, and they're trying to make it a shopping. I guess in the day it was a shopping destination. Okay. They're trying to kind of rejuvenate that whole shopping destination for the downtown.
Yeah.
So I am all eyeballs in up here, rehabbing, and there's commercial downstairs, rental units, storage units. We have just all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
So I don't know. It's just crazy.
Well, it's interesting. There's all kinds of tools we can use to find where to invest. And in fact, I'll share one with everybody here. It's called How Money Walks. And it tracks the migration of money by using IRS tax filings. Not the migration of people, but money. So, and you can see where the good areas are, where money's going to. And there's other tools you can use, of course, to figure out, crime rates and industry movement, what's moving in, what's moving out. But Iowa is one of the better places. You've got the Quad Cities to the east, you've got Des Moines in the middle, you got Sioux City up kind of northwest. I don't remember Clinton exactly, but it sounds like it's at least got a decent.
Well, it's right on the Mississippi. It's right on the water. Okay. Actually, the town next to it's called LeClaire. And LeClaire was one of those towns that was like a nothing town. And then the Pickers, the show, the Pickers guys, Frank and Mike there have their warehouse there. And when they started and the show became on, that whole town was just like a ghost town as well. And now it's like booming. So we're only about 15 minutes from that. So they're kind of working up the river, you know, trying to re-beautify all these little cute towns. And but the Quad Cities is like where I go shopping to get like my hair and my nails and you know, shopping for like, you know, clothes.
So I taught classes.
It's very small. It's a very small town.
Yeah. Well, I taught classes all over in those Quad Cities, Des Moines, even up in the Sioux City, South Sioux City. I think it was over in Nebraska, and but just wonderful people, wonderful country. It's, you know, salt through the earth. You know, the heartland. You know, that's why they call it the heartland. So
such good people, such good people. So, and it's funny how you're talking about how money travels. Back in the day, Clinton had the most millionaires of any place in the United States because it was on the river and there was railroad tracks, all the land baron, the lumber barons. So even the baseball team was called the Lumber Kings. So everybody was into lumber. So there were so many millionaires. There's so many giant mansions. They're just falling down. And it was just a super wealthy town at one point. Yeah. So we're bringing it back.
Well, so now so eventually moved to Colorado, but before we move forward, I just want to see, so in the early days when you were starting out, a lot of folks listening, they're typically will have a dentist, teachers, firemen, policemen, even military, airline pilots, you know, runs the gamut, but typically they're typically professionals, you know, college educated, a lot of business owners. A lot of them are thinking, I want to invest in real estate because I can't work on people's teeth for the rest of my life. And how do I save? So what advice can you give some of those folks who are thinking, you know, I really want to do this. Dwan's obviously done it and done well. I mean, 2,000 units, that's unbelievable. That's awesome. You know,
it's mind boggling. When I think about it, I'm always like, who did that? Me? How'd that happen?
But it does happen. I mean, it's happened to me too. But would you mind sharing, and maybe there's like a core strategy or a method, or, you know, I mean, sometimes a lot of it's just heart and mind, just your mindset, you know, is probably the more important thing.
You know what? I have a really great tip, especially for someone that may already be some type of a business professional or something who's not like going to get out and like go door knocking and look for a house to flip. If they just Google the word opportunity zone, opportunity zones, and there's all kinds of pages that will come up, and then you can click your state, and then you can click it down by your county, your city, your town, or whatever you want to do. And there's all these opportunity zones. And the thing about the opportunity zones is most people, unless they know about it, and it's not even like it has to be a bad area. You can be in a beautiful neighborhood and there's 3 blocks right here that are in an opportunity zone. An opportunity zone would be when you buy in those areas, if you keep it for 10 years, you don't have to pay capital gains. They're all property. I guess the phone is ringing in the background. That's my dad's phone. I'm like, what is that phone? This is my dad's phone ringing. So there are houses that if you own them for 10 years, you don't have to pay capital gains. There's all kinds of money that's available. So you may have, and mostly for outside things. So you may have money available for roofs, siding, a fascia soffit, a new facade on a commercial building, something. So there's a lot of money available in opportunity zones. So that is part of why we started working on Clinton. That downtown became an opportunity zone. So any area, there's neighborhoods all around there where they're residential areas, but there's pockets. And there's just a lot. There's a lot of money available. And grant money, like you don't have to pay it back, grant money.
Wow.
If you buy an opportunity zone. So we're getting roofs on buildings. We're getting new facades. One of our rental houses, we're getting all new siding on the outside. We're getting new windows. We're getting a new roof. And the city has money sitting there, but people don't know that they can ask for it.
Yeah. Amazing.
So that's my big tip. And in every state and every city, no matter how fancy you think it is, there's an opportunity zone. Yeah.
I've not done that. I'm glad you mentioned this because it's something I have not done myself. But other folks who have done it, they said the same thing. It's like, you may think it's only in, you know, Baltimore or Memphis, whatever, but it's everywhere. Yep.
And everyone thinks, oh, I live in a great area. It's like, well, you may be in a great area. There might be 3 blocks that the city wants to kind of jazz it back up again. So they make them opportunity zones. But the benefits, and so all you have to do is find the area, look at it, call and see if there's some sort of a housing, not a housing, but like a planning board or a planning committee, and talk to that person, and they'll say, ours is called the SMID. It's like the some downtown housing, but they'll tell you, and there are millions of dollars sitting there. You buy the building and boom, they will help you fix it and make it nice.
Yeah, that's incredible. So now did you, so kind of fill me in, going to Florida? By the way, when you were in Florida, did you ever hear of a guy named Frank McKinney? He was
yeah, Frank's my buddy.
Yeah. So
Frank's been on my podcast a couple times. Yeah, Frank and I are friends. I've known Frank for a million years.
Yeah, I've met him.
We actually live in the same town. We live in Delray Beach. We live in the same town.
So I got to go to his personal home when we used to have the tree house up there, and then Delray Beach made him move the tree house back for some odd reason, but we had a big event there, and he told us how he got started flipping little crack houses doing multi-million-dollar. And then I had him come speak at one of my events up in Pennsylvania a couple years later. And then I went back again and had dinner with him and Rich DeVos, the founder of Amway and the owner of the Atlanta Magic. I met him twice and sat at the same table with him. Just everybody listen here, I want you to break this down. Dwan and I probably have similar backgrounds. Like I wasn't born into this. I mean, my mom was afraid of me to buy my first house. That's my background. Okay. So I'm just telling you, if you put yourself out there and you just ask for help, ask for information, like the opportunity zone. I mean, it's there. Guys like Frank McKinney, same thing, came from Indiana, was teaching tennis, and he's been on Oprah. Donald Trump went to him to figure out what to do with Mar-a-Lago, He
did. Yep.
So, great. It's a small world out there, and I tell you can plug yourself. I don't care if you're a dentist or a teacher. Take a weekend, take a week, go sign up for something, join an event, and meet people. And these opportunities will come your way. I'm telling you,
it will come your way.
Yep.
On going to like your local REIA. REIA stands for people that don't know. It's Real Estate Investors Association.
Yep.
They could be called Real Estate Investors Group, clubs, whatever. But if you'll Google in your area and find all the REIA groups, that's actually how I really made all my connections back then. And so I had a REIA group in Florida when I started in Fort Lauderdale is where I started. I started in Palm Beach County, and I have a REIA group in Colorado. But the thing is with REIA groups, everyone that attends them, they're all like-minded people. So if you think, oh, I don't know anybody, go to a REIA group. Everybody there wants to buy or sell or lend money, or they want to do something to help real estate investors. Like that's their actual job. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I was one of the keynotes. I was a keynote speaker for REIA on their 2018 annual cruise, and so I shared the stage with the president at the time, and been a member for years. Usually, the old days, it was ACRE, American Congress of Real Estate. That was back in the Carlton Sheets days, and then REIA was a spinoff of that, and they're all actually underneath the same umbrella mothership, if you will. But so it's a great organization.
Have you been on the REIA cruises?
Yeah.
The National REIA cruises?
Yeah, the 2018 was the last one.
I think my first one was 2020.
Yeah, I wasn't on that one. Unfortunately I got strep throat on the one in 2018, so I kind of held off, and then of course the virus hit. But I'll be back out there again. I'm
2018. I'm sorry, 2018. No, I'm 2000. 2000 was my first
2000.
one. 20 years ago, the National REIA. I was thinking in my mind was hearing you say 1998. Okay. I went on 2000, my first one. I was like, oh, we were just like far apart. Yes, I have not been on one for about a decade though.
Okay. Well, all right. So let's do this if you could. And by the way, I appreciate you sharing that golden tip about opportunity zones. A lot of people hear about this, don't know what it is, but just check it out, guys. So now Florida to Iowa, and then from there you actually went to Colorado.
So now I live in Florida, so I still have my house in Florida. And I was, at that time, people were already like, oh, she's a woman, she's a speaker, like have her come to your real estate group and talk. So people were inviting me to come and speak. So I got asked to speak in Colorado for Bill Bronchek. Do you know Bill Bronchek from Denver?
Yeah.
Okay. So he invited me to come to his RIA group. And when I was at his RIA group, I met my husband, Bill. And I thought, oh, we could have a house in Florida. We could have a house in Colorado. This would be amazing. So we got married. We kept both houses. So we've been going, we kind of do half and half all the time. And then we started going to all these reunions in Clinton. He's from Clinton. I'm here right now. I'm in my childhood home.
Yep.
Outside Dayton, Ohio. So I was raised in Ohio. He was raised in Iowa. And then that's what got us interested in that's how I discovered opportunity zones, actually. Okay. Downtown, so we're doing this stuff, and they said, Google opportunities. So we started looking. But now, all over the country, anywhere we go, any place, we're going for a week's vacation, we look at opportunity zones, and we pick up stuff all over the country. Yeah. All over the country. If I'm in town for a week, I'm buying something.
Okay. Now, so now, obviously to acquire 2,000 units, you probably had to be consistent and persistent, but did you start, did the type of property that you went after start to change? Like did you start going after bigger properties, mixed use properties, or kind of tell us like what the next step was in your evolution, So
so my first one was a rehab. And it's so funny looking back, because if one of my students came to me and said, hey, I found this house and I'm going to move in and she's going to move out. We're going to split the deal and we kind of have a hug and a handshake and we have no paperwork, I would be like, what? But that's how my first deal was. I didn't know enough to even know I needed paperwork. And this woman, Barbara, didn't know enough. We just said we were two single women. We were both in a shitty situation and I could help her and she could move out. We could split the money when it was all said and done. And that was my first deal. So I rehabbed for about 5 years. And then when I started going to the RIA group that opened up, I started hearing people talk about wholesaling and getting it under contract and selling it to rehabbers and landlords. And then I started learning about being a landlord. And so I learned a lot from my RIA groups. And then I started learning about commercial. So as I learned more about it, I went from primary wholesale rehabbing to wholesaling, because I knew how to find houses. I had that down pat. I knew all the rehabbers and landlords in town. So I just wholesaled houses for like a full decade, and I bought rentals. So I did that for a long time, and I bought rentals. And then I did that actually for a decade before I ever met my husband even. So when I met Bill, I had my own house on the water in Florida. I had my boat, had my convertible, I had all my rentals. I was like, I'm all that, I'm thinking, and I met Bill and I'm like, dang, he had done at that time, he had done like 650 deals already. And I was like, he has this beautiful house in the mountains. And I was like, ooh, it's a good match right here,
There you go.
2 stars aligning. And so then we started doing back and forth. And so when we do rehab in Colorado, we would, you've been up in the mountains there, exactly where we live. We find the biggest, most beautiful, giant cabins and things like that, and turn them into these like $1 million mountain mansions. I call them my $1 million mountain mansions. Mm-hmm. So we do some pretty big rehabs. Mm-hmm. I bought some commercial property in Florida, probably about 7 years in. I bought some, what was, at the time, it was some light commercial. So it was those neighborhoods where they take houses and they let you rent them out as offices.
Okay.
Like they're all around the country. You can drive down some old street and you go, oh, this used to be a street. And now it's got like a dentist and a doctor and a chiropractor, and they're old houses that are offices. So I started buying those in Florida, really just to have an office and have it near my house. And it was also in Delray Beach. So I started doing that. But now Bill and I are buying like big buildings, stories and stories and 6-7 stories, and commercial at the bottom and residential all up through there. So now we're in this giant project. I mean, we're in like a 5-year project to get this completely done and every inch of it done and fixed up and ready to roll. And then we bought storage units, and we have a bunch of vacant land that we're going to build some spec homes on. So I just feel like, for me personally, I know some people do the same thing. Maybe they're landlords their whole life, their career, which is awesome. And maybe they do subject twos their whole career, and that's all awesome too. But I don't know. I like to, now that I've had so much experience, this last decade, I've been liking to do things that at one point I could never see myself doing. Like I never imagined I'd buy 27 acres in the middle of the mountains and build a bunch of spec homes on it. But I thought, well, why not? I mean, why not? I'm going to try it and see. It'll be fine. So we're doing a lot of crazy projects like that. I think just to kind of expand our minds for both of us, just expand what we do.
Yeah. Well, so now what's interesting now is, the market is just taken off like a rocket these last several years. And now there's some interesting things going on. Of course, the Fed's saying they're going to raise rates in March and they're with the virus. A lot of office spaces have gone empty. Some restaurants have gone out of things like that. But the thing is, it's still a very strong, robust economy. And I'm not saying we can't go into recession. We will. It's just a mathematical certainty. The market goes up and down. It's going to happen.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
It does. But some of those buildings, like, because everyone's like, oh my God, why are you guys buying all this commercial? COVID, But now there's a couple buildings, like one, for example, in Iowa. It was a storage unit with it used to be like a car, like a garage where they worked on cars. They left all their equipment. They left everything. Well, the bank was asking like $210 for that. And we were like, it's COVID, we'll pay you $38,000. And they said, no. And like 18 months later, they said, hey, if you'll pay us $50,000, we'll take it. So this was a building, it's 3 lots. Right. And they were asking $2 something and they gave it to us for $50,000. So easy. If you don't, the thing is, they need to sell. I didn't have to buy.
Right.
So people can kind of keep that mindset. Like, listen, I don't have to buy, but this bank that's sitting on this giant shopping mall that's empty, they have to sell. You don't have to buy. You make some ridiculous offer. This is what I always tell people. If your offer is not low enough to embarrass you, it's too high.
Yeah.
So when you say the words, I'll offer you $35,000. If you don't feel like, oh my God, they're going to run through this phone and kill me. If you're not embarrassed by it, it's too high. And the thing is, you don't have to buy. So you wait, you sit. I checked in every couple of months, and then they said, okay, if you can close next month, we'll take it. So all of a sudden, we have a $200,000 discount on a giant, massive 20 storage units with 3 full rentable buildings with all the equipment. So there's deals out there. So I always think, like, as long as you're not paying retail, it doesn't really matter what like you said, it's cyclical, It goes up and down. But we know that there's a bunch of down coming because rates are going to go up. People didn't make mortgage payments since 2020 in like March. People didn't make mortgage payments. People moved out. They closed their businesses. But just as many people are like, you know what? I want to open a business. I'm going to try it too. Right.
Yeah. Well, I've always loved real estate. I mean, I'm in the stock market too, but in the stock market, there's only 2 moves. You get in and get out. You have no control. You can't improve a stock.
No.
You can improve a building. You can change the tenants. You can repurpose a property. It's so much more forgiving than the stock market. And another thing too is, in any recession, everybody remember the properties don't actually go away. Businesses can shut down, but buildings are still there. And what happens is a transfer of wealth. It's a transfer of ownership. So either be part of a principal part of it, where you're either buying or selling, or you can do like what my team does. We also help the transaction take place, and we earn commissions on those. So we do it. We get involved in. We're making money no matter what we do. We turn left, we make a commission. We turn right, we get ownership. So keep in mind that it's a recession. All that means is it's a typically cooling off. Things get overheated. It's got to cool off typically.
Yep.
The last recession was brought on by some other factors, namely the fraudulent mortgage business. Different circumstances.
That was a mess.
Yeah, but the fundamentals.
We made a fortune.
The fundamentals never change. Though it's supply and demand. Yeah. And so always study, learn, look for the opportunities, and learn the strategies. In an up market, you have one strategy. In a down market, you have another strategy. There's dozens of strategies,
there is, but there's always money to be made, and there's more millionaires from real estate every single year than all the other ways combined. Even in the Depression, people still became millionaires. Even in the 2018, 8, 9, 10 people, and now people are like, oh, everything is booming. It's like, but it crashed. Coming on. And you can't be afraid to buy. I think that's part of why, like, listen to someone like you, Gary, and listen to someone like me. I think we help give people confidence. Like, listen, real estate's always going to be there. whether the market's good or bad, there's still going to be houses, buildings, rentals, where that person that owns that is still in a bad situation, because just because the economy is good doesn't mean everybody's good.
Yeah.
People are going through death. They're going through divorce. They're going through sickness. They're losing their jobs, even in the high economy. Low economy, same thing, but now the banks are all in too.
Yeah.
So
what's amazing, the last recession, I already had, a couple hundred units. When the recession started, my business grew sixfold in the first 3 years of the recession. I actually built 4 businesses: brokerage, property management, title, and appraisal. Things that everybody needs. And it was so rapid, the transfers were, we just served. That's what we just provided, the service that was necessary, and gave us more capital to work with. And it's just amazing. So, so what's interesting now, so have you primarily invested in the areas around where you were living, like Florida, Iowa, Colorado? Has that been as far as geography goes?
Mostly we buy on the regular basis. We buy Florida, Colorado, Iowa, and Texas, and Tennessee. So those are like our primary. And a lot of that is because we have family and like our roots are there. But we buy houses everywhere. And if someone says, "Hey, come work, I want you to speak at my seminar out here," we'll go out there a couple of days early and we'll find something. We'll get under contract. We'll wholesale it. So I don't even think there's a state at this point we haven't gotten something and wholesaled it and flipped it or kept it. But primarily I keep things just a little more centrally located so that I'm not so all over the map mentally. I can kind of, okay, what do I have going on in this state, this state, this state? And of course, we're big on property managers, and like you need people to help you. If you think you can do all that by yourself, you're going to be overworked and overstressed for sure. So I'm very big on having teams and people in places and all the people that I need. And so I don't know. I don't think there's any one area that's better or worse. There's opportunity zones everywhere.
I agree. Yep.
Especially like I'm in Dayton right now. So I'm in West Mountain, Ohio. Down in Dayton, Dayton, when I was growing up, that's part of the reason I moved to Florida. As when I was growing up, I graduated high school in 1977. So the big thing in Ohio was get a job at General Motors, work at the car factory, work for the man, and work 40 years and retire.
Oh, yeah.
So I did just that. I got a factory job straight out of high school. So I'm 18 years old. I graduate like June 10th. I'm working at a factory. And after a week, I thought, oh my God, I cannot believe that my parents want me to do this. This is the worst thing that's ever happened. This is awful. How am I going to live 40 years? I can't survive 40 years. I didn't know this, but I'd never been in a factory. There's no air conditioning. You're sitting on concrete floors all day. I mean, I was like 2 weeks in and I thought, oh my Lord, there's no way I can't do 40 years here. It's not possible for me to do this. And that's what everyone was doing around here. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to go someplace where it's warm and it's sunny and I'm going to do something else. I ended up in Florida. So thank God. And I love Ohio, but now all those factories are empty. All those neighborhoods around that relied on that, you can buy houses up here for $5,000. And I mean, houses like, 3 beds, 1 bath, or 2-story, 3-bed, 1 bath siding. You buy houses for $5,000 and they're not horrible houses.
Right.
I helped my dad buy eight houses recently.
Wow.
For nothing.
Well, let me ask you this: what keeps you going? Like, what inspires you? I mean, is there something you're doing? Like, maybe it's other single moms starting out, something like that. That's sort of like I don't know how to describe it. People say it's the big why, but to me, it's more like a passion. It's like something that pulls you forward, and it's like in service to others. Anything you can recommend as far as like there's the Oxford House for people. We can provide housing for recovering addicts, things like that. We can take some of what we participate in and share with others. Is there anything like that you've seen that you would recommend? Or
well, one of the reasons I think I started teaching was because I recognized, I was like, listen, I was single and in my 20s, I worked in the bar business the whole time. I had no skills to speak of. And I thought, a single broke mom that was left with a baby and fired from Denny is going to be a millionaire. Like, who can't do that? So way from the beginning, I have always started teaching right away. And I was married, even Bill's my third husband. So I was married before that to someone fairly abusive. So I have found that over the years, I try to work, I work a lot with the abused women. I do everything I can to help, like, single parents, and I have a lot of Section 8 rentals. Mm-hmm. And if Section 8, people always go, oh, Section 8, that's just a bunch of poor people living in the hood. But the program is designed, and mostly it's women. I've had a few men, but it's designed for people to live in this house. The government pays for you to go to college, and you're supposed to get a degree. And then when you get your job, the person on Section 8, the tenant, the government takes this much out of your paycheck and they match it. And the purpose is to go through college, build a savings, the government matches it, and you buy a house, and you get off the program, and you get off the system into society. And so I'm really big a proponent on helping the Section 8, as long as I'm getting a tenant who is not mooching off the system because it's their lifestyle handed down from generations. If they're like, no, I'm in college, I'm doing the right thing. So I find myself always wanting to help, I think, anyone that's single or abusive or coming from anything bad. Homeless people, I do so much for the homeless. So I don't know, I feel like that's where my heart is when I want to help people.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And I want to go ahead and wrap this up. No, we're getting short on time here. Before we do, what if people wanted to speak with you or see what you're doing? I mean, how can they find you? Website, form to fill out. So
I'm super easy. So my name is Dwan. Mm-hmm. So my website is Dwanderful. Mm-hmm. Because I'm wonderful. Okay. So Dwanderful.com. So DWAN, Dwan, DERFUL, Dwanderful.com. My podcast is called The Most Dwanderful Real Estate Podcast Ever. And then I'm on TikTok, Instagram, everything under Dwanderful.
Awesome.
And if they opt in at my site, I've got a free training program and 4 free ebooks.
Okay.
Lots of free stuff. I do about free stuff.
Well, everybody listening, Dwanderful, DWAN, Dwanderful. Mm-hmm. Right, .com. Yep. Get the free ebooks. I'm all about learning, so I'm going to do it. Okay, and I recommend you do the same thing. And Dwan, thanks again. I know we went long here, but this was such a fun one, and I really.
Oh, thank you, Gary. You're so much fun. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to do it, and we'll have to do this again sometime. And we will. Everybody listening, take Dwan up on her offer, Gary. Guys, it's free education, right? And again, if you could do me a favor, and Dwan. As you finish listening to this podcast, please leave a review. It helps Dwan. It helps the podcast. It's a great community we have here. We all help each other and support each other. And you, the consumer, leaving reviews, good or bad, actually helps either way. We really do appreciate it. And while you're at it, get yourself one of those investor agents we talked about. Look for the GIA Global Investor Agent Team. Okay, they're already in 28 states.
Nice.
Yep, they're trained to help you and I invest, and they're not typical agents. They're not just saying, look at that pretty carpet. They know how to identify the deals and analyze them and negotiate with you and for you if you're out of state, on and off market. So this is a real deal here, and I'd encourage you to take advantage of that. And for everybody, thank you for listening. I hope you have a good rest of the day here at work, wherever you are. God bless you and your families. And Dwan, same goes to you. Thank you very much. Yep. And we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.